Welcome back for a quick little news of the day video. And the hub cities are narrowed down. The 6 logos you see on the board, those are the 6 cities still in the mix. Los Angeles. I'm mildly surprised LA is still in the mix. It makes some sense, but the overall numbers in the area, I'm kind of surprised they've made it this far. Vancouver, Edmonton. Edmonton's actually up the ante. So they've sent out videos on how families of the Edmonton Oilers could enjoy Rocky Mountain excursions. And honestly, around here, the government's basically saying, look, so this summer you won't be able to fly internationally. You can take, camping trips outdoors. And so that's being pushed a lot up here anyways. So that's good. And it's good to see Edmonton still, doubling down on wanting this hub. Well, Alberta in general, right? Vegas is still considered a front runner. I understand the numbers being where they are and all that, but Vegas is still considered a front runner. Toronto as well. And Chicago is still in the mix. So Pittsburgh's out, and Minnesota's out, and we're down to 10, or down to 6 from 10. I'll figure it out. I'll wake up at some point today. I think what's killing it is my phone died this morning, and without my phone, I'm just kind of, what do I do? So, the hub cities are down to 6, and we will see who gets announced. I would think at the end of this week it's going to be announced. I would think end of this week it gets announced, and then by the end of next week, I would think they'll want to know from players who's coming back and who isn't. So have the vote. And then find out which players are not going to come back. Which players are going to say, you know what, it's not safe. I don't feel comfortable. And that's the important thing to remember here. That gets lost in all of the online arguing. The NHL players, if they don't feel safe, they can absolutely say, I don't think this is going to work. And they can opt out. And nobody's going to be mad at them for opting out. And that's going to happen, I would think, in the NBA and baseball, if baseball figures things out. I know that's going back and forth, but man, that's getting ugly. But, this is between the NHL and the NHLPA. They're making these joint decisions on which cities are still involved, just as a for example. And so when this gets announced and they figure something out, if the players look at the plan from the NHL and they say, man, that is not safe, they just say no. And then we go back to the drawing board. So I'm encouraged that it is a joint venture. And again, I've mentioned this before, I think that's important when you're trying to negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement as well, or at least extend the current one. And if they both announce the Phase 3, Phase 4, and the new CBA at the same time, or just the extension of the CBA, the PR looks pretty good coming out of that. Now, the Hall of Fame announcement's coming as well over the next day or so. And we're going to end up with some people not happy about who's not in the Hall of Fame. That's just how that ends up working out. Iginla's going in. Jerome Iginla's the one. That's why I'm wearing the old Blasty jersey, because we know Iginla's going in. There's no doubt about that. This could have been a very Calgary-themed overall Hall of Fame class, though. Theoren Fleury not being in the Hall, I think it has a lot to do with personality, with his own demons he was battling while he was playing. But you know what? I think it's time to put him in the Hall of Fame. I do. I think it's time to put Theoren Fleury in the Hall of Fame. I think the Hall of Fame deciding that personality rules a player out should be done. I'm not talking about illegal activities and stuff that aren't acceptable, or the cheating you see with the baseball players that have been Hall of Fame. I just mean personality. It feels like that matters, and it shouldn't. Alexander McGillney, I have no idea why McGillney's not in the Hall of Fame. And again, if you say, well, he wasn't a top-notch player for long enough, fine. But the story of how he came to the NHL, his defection, and how that all worked out, honestly, that to me makes him Hall of Fame level. Absolutely. And he was a pretty good goal scorer. He did win a cup. And so there's some reasons to say, yeah, he belongs in there. Chris Osgood, I've made the argument before. Osgood, I think, suffered because he was behind a really good team, and yet he won Stanley Cups. So they're like, well, he's pretty good. But if you look at the overall numbers, Osgood was excellent in some of those playoff runs. Absolutely fantastic, but he just doesn't get Hall of Fame consideration. Peter Bondra, saw an argument in the comment section, like, oh, well, Bondra's in the Hall of Fame. No, he isn't. Peter Bondra's not in the Hall of Fame. He's in the International Ice Hockey Federation's Hall of Fame. He is not in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Does he belong there? Probably. You score 500 goals, especially during the dead puck era. You probably belong there. Jeremy Roenick, I think it's personality that's kept Roenick out. I have the same feeling about Roenick as Fleury. You know what? Put Roenick and Fleury and Tom Barrasso all in together, and I guarantee you those Hall of Fame speeches, they're going to be memorable. That's going to be some memorable Hall of Fame speeches. I'm not saying that necessarily they're going to be challenging people to fights halfway through their speech, but maybe, depending on who's sitting front row for those speeches. Pierre Turgeon, I've argued that I understand why Turgeon's not in the Hall of Fame, but his overall numbers tell you he should eventually probably get there. Doug Wilson, I've made the argument for Doug Wilson many times over. Feels like I've been arguing it for years, probably have been. Doug Wilson was a great defenseman who, again, he was just in an era with some other great defensemen, but it doesn't mean he didn't have a Hall of Fame level profile. Vinny LeCavalier. Does LeCavalier belong there? I don't have Brad Richards on the board. Does Brad Richards belong in the Hall of Fame? And then there's the three goalies over here. Curtis Joseph, one of my all-time favorites, who I think if he had played for Detroit his entire career, not that one time where he went to Detroit and bombed out, but I think if he played for Detroit his entire career, I think he would have won cup rings, and I think he'd already be in the Hall of Fame. It's an argument I've made with goaltenders plenty, where it feels like certain goalies don't get consideration because they don't win enough, or in Mike Vernon's case, maybe it's seen as well in '89, that was a great Flames team, and then, yeah, he took the Red Wings to a Stanley Cup too, but that's just basically deciding how you're going to decide your Hall of Famers, the criteria, and then changing it based on the player. And, of course, Barrasso, absolutely fantastic goaltender. But, again, not known for being the most personable, greatest guy on the planet. But who cares? Again, to me, Hall of Fame shouldn't be about who the nice guys are. Coming back to baseball, there are plenty of guys in the Hall of Fame in baseball who their off-ice antics and personality, or off-ice, yeah, they would have been off the ice quite a bit. Their off-field antics and off-field personality was sketchy. So, yeah, we'll see who gets announced, but when you get mad about who isn't announced in the Hall of Fame, keep some of these names in mind. For whatever reason, it's some of the players that get in and then some of the players that don't. Like last year when Carbonneau got in, I was sort of like, Carbonneau. Not because Carbonneau doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame, but because of some of these other names that are still not in there. Where I'm like, yeah, Carbonneau should get in there, but shouldn't some of these other guys have got in there too? So anyways, moving along, Vlad Tarasenko says he is all set to return, shoulders all healed up, he's good to go. And if you're a Blues fan, you rightfully should be excited about that. The Blues coming in as the number one seed. Of course, there's going to be that round robin to decide who actually gets number one seed. But yeah, Tarasenko to a team that is arguably already the best team in the West, defending Stanley Cup champions. That makes them all the more formidable. As of today, the NHL is allowing up to 12 players on the ice. So you can have up to 12 players at practice starting today. And again, social media went nuts. The NHL's not being safe. The NHL's not being safe. This is just ridiculous. This isn't safe. Nobody's forcing the players to come back. It's all voluntary. At this point, if the players are on the ice, it's not because a team went to them and said, you'd better get on the ice. It's because they came to the practice facility and they went out on the ice and started skating. Everything right now is voluntary. Everything is voluntary. Everything. How dare, this is terrible. Look at all the players. It's voluntary. They don't have to be out there home sipping on pina coladas. They're out on the ice, and good on them. So here's to hoping that we get through this phase 2. We get to phase 3 and then a phase 4. And of course on Friday, hoping I see all of you there for the live stream. I've already got it set up. It's already on the channel. I've set it for 4:30 my time on Friday, where we're going to have your annual, let's see, 2016, 17, 18, 19, yeah, the fifth annual draft lottery. And of course, this is months later than it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be in April. It gets pushed back to late June. And who knows, maybe we'll just have placeholder teams named as the top 3, and we can pretend we're all excited about Team H. I was really pulling for Team H. So, Team F, oh, I hate those guys when we don't even know who those teams are going to be. Because after the play-in round, they just then have a lottery to decide who gets which letter. So it's not Team A is necessarily the team with the worst record. So if they get eliminated in the first round, say Montreal gets eliminated in the play-in, you don't just look and go, oh, so they get their Team A. That's not how that works. So we'll have a draft lottery, and then we may have a phase 2 of the draft lottery. We may not need a phase 2. I'm hoping we don't need a phase 2, just personally. Anyways, let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, and hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.